got my Instagram set up.
Yeah.
And
All
we're
right.
live. Hello, everybody. Yes, we're
Hello.
going live on all the channels that we have. That's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Instagram
And
has to be on a
Instagram.
separate device, but oh well, it is what the limitations of today. Hello, Ute. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. As I say always, we only have one life to live. We better live it the most happy
The best.
possible.
Absolutely.
There's a proverb that I saw, and it's like source unknown, but it says of German origin.
Origin,
Yeah.
tell
Oh,
me.
are you here? Let me find you on Instagram, and
I
you are
have
here
I
with
have
me.
sent the request, so you just should
Okay.
let
Now I
me know.
think you're going to be coming in, and
Yes.
so I was saying this proverb. It says whether you can laugh it whether you laugh it through or whether you cry it through, a life is a life. And like I learned it in Japanese actually this but
Okay.
I don't know what the original says, but something along the
Oh,
lines
it's
of
very
where you
strange.
cry it through your life or you laugh it through your life. It's one life, so you only have one life. You might as well
Laugh.
enjoy it.
You might as well laugh. No,
Might as well. Yeah,
I fully get it, and I agree. Yes, if you can,
if you can.
if
Yeah,
you can laugh.
I just
There
think
are also days where you just don't want to laugh and you just want to cry. So
it.
giving it a certain balance, but let's stay on the positive side.
Well, I'm always laughing and enjoying my life when I have my kids around. And I see my kids,
That's
and
true.
yeah.
That's
And speaking of my kids, so a recent development in our family is that 2 days ago, that's Sunday that just
true.
passed, my wife and my younger three children left to go to Japan. It's
Mhm.
quiet in the house. It's quiet. Only my oldest is still here with me. It's the first year that he's sticking around
Mhm.
during the summer vacations.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
he's at that age where we gotta, sort of take education more seriously, I guess.
Okay. I thought that you would have, like this bonding dad
Mhm.
and son and doing some things that you never would do when everyone is around. Or are you just, yeah, you're laughing. I think you have something in mind as well.
Yes, that father son time.
Yes.
We do have that. Uh, you know that we have this thing at our home, this one-on-one sessions that we do every few
Yes.
weeks, where we
Yes.
actually sit down. We really just sit down, each child
Hmm.
from the age of 8. So my daughter's 9 going on 10 this year. My oldest is 10 going on 11. So these two, I sit them down. When my younger ones get to 8 and above,
Okay.
that's when we'll start this. You know, 10, 20, maybe 30 minutes, depending on the week. We sit down and we talk about everything and anything,
Hmm.
that bonding time, that communication time, that time that is set aside specifically for this kind of communication. I think it's really important,
Hmm.
so that you're not, you know, you're not in a volatile emotional state. Like they just did something bad and you're scolding them, or they did something really
No.
great and you're congratulating them.
Yes.
Either extremes, I think. I try to just hold back a little bit.
Hmm.
If it's positive, I usually just let it go. But if it's negative, I'll say what I have to say really on the spot, but not overdo
Hmm.
it. And then when
Yes.
we're in a quiet moment, when it's sort of emotionally detached from the event, that's
Hmm.
when we'll talk about that. And we talk about other things like, in general, how's it going at school? What are your interests? What do you like to do? What do you want to become? That kind of thing. What do you want to
Yes.
become when you grow older? It's one of the topics too.
That one of the topics too. Yes,
Mhm.
and then also a little bit maybe how is it going with your friends? How is it going with people? How you yes your
Yeah,
life in general. So
definitely, definitely.
mm,
And this may seem irrelevant to languages, since we are raising
it's
multilinguals,
it is
but
relevant.
I think it's all connected. I think this relationship that you build with your kids
Mhm.
is super important. It's like the foundation of this trust that you're building with them, into how you can guide them to do whatever that you think they should do in life, for good or for good or for
Yes,
good.
for good or for good. Yes, or you think they should do, or you hope that they
Yeah,
will be able to do, or choose to do,
that's
and
right.
even if they don't choose it,
Hmm.
that's where they actually teach us the
Hmm.
greatest lessons. That's like
Yes, I agree. I agree.
what
If
they
they
prepare.
if they don't choose it, this is a good moment to understand why,
Yeah,
and open our minds as parents to
yeah,
their thoughts, their way of their thought process and what they want to do,
yeah,
and be fully supportive of that,
yeah.
rather than dictating what they should do in life. So
Yes,
that's and and,
absolutely.
and like you
Yes.
said, they will surprise you. They will show you, tremendous potential.
Hmm. Yes, they are. I find them inspiring, I must say. I can
Mhm.
learn so much from not only my children, also other children that I know, because they are showing us also other perspective on situations that we think that we know how they are and what they are leading to, but actually they might be leading to something completely different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, as you said, this communication, this bonding, that is also communication, that's listening to what they are saying, and that has very much to do with raising them also with multiple
Yes.
languages, because we have to communicate, we have to find a language
Exactly.
and it's not only the language, I don't know, Chinese or German or Italian, it's also the the how can I say, the way you put the things so that the
Mhm.
other person can understand and actually interact with you on the same level sometimes. And now that's a psychology. It's not parents and children. It's at some
But
point
but
that you
they're,
are,
they're all linked.
yeah,
I totally
absolutely.
think they're linked.
Mhm.
One specific example that I could come up with is a lot of times, parents would hit a wall in terms of communication with their children,
Mhm.
and specifically around the importance or the relevance of a language to their lives. I mean, theoretically, you tell them it's important to speak many languages. It'll be good for your career or life in general, or to speak to grandpa, grandma, whatever. That's an intellectual process,
Mhm.
but it doesn't mean the kids will really understand that. But if you have a very good, solid, trusting relationship, the kids, if they don't detest languages, at least they will be open to your suggestions more than if you
Then
didn't
other,
really have a very good, trusting relationship. That's sort of
absolutely.
where I think it's a very something that comes in that really supports this process of language acquisition.
Yes. But there are also moments where our children or we, I'm thinking of a question that we had from Yoshito. I
Mhm.
asked on several platforms, please let us know what should we talk about today? And he suggested, let me read the question. Have you ever rejected one of your languages and why? And how
Mhm.
did you reconciliate yourselves with them? So thank you, Yoshito, for this question. And this goes a little bit where what you were talking about now.
Yeah.
So even if I had a good relationship with my parents, I still rejected the language, not because of them using it, and surely not because my grandparents and the rest of my family would speak it, but because my friends were not accepting it or not valuing it, or they were connecting something with it that was not okay for me, and this was the reason for me. But yeah, I think the fact that my parents still like to use it, and I understood at some point that it was necessary and it was nice. It's a nice language. It's a beautiful language,
It
that
is.
I reconciliated
Mhm.
with it and with everything that is attached, because somehow we connect the languages, the culture, anything that we do, the skills, the sports that we do, with experience, with the prejudice that others might have, with our own feelings towards it. And when there is something negative, we have to process that. But I think it's important then in moments like the ones that you have with your children that you can talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, if I think if my mom would have insisted and said, no, now you talk German and I don't respond to you if you don't, I probably would still not want to talk it, and I wouldn't talk it with my children either.
You bring up a good point. Yeah, events. Sometimes it's really event specific rather than the whole language or whole language and culture itself that you're rejecting. So yeah, because I don't think I've ever really rejected any one of my languages per se. But then again, I don't think I've ever been forced to speak any of my languages. So it's only like events where they go, oh, Tetsu, say say this in English, or say this in Japanese, like a circus show. That I didn't like when I was young. So those events per se, I disliked, and I don't do it to my kids. I make sure that when we're outside, that I'm cognizant of the situations, and if there's many friends around, I don't go out of my way to shout at them in Mandarin, just to, because that garners a lot of attention. So I try to be careful in that way, but then again, my kids, especially my oldest one, he doesn't care. Like he would scream at me from the other side of the room in Mandarin. So I'm happy that at least he's sort of insensitive, I guess, or desensitized in that sense.
Yes, and I think that has also a little bit to do with the pride that we transmit with our language. But even if you have this pride and at some point you feel that you using the language puts you on the spot or puts you, makes you stand out, or other people saying, oh, don't, or you're not part of the group if you speak that language, or if you are that part of your identity or your culture. Especially when you are a teenager, and I was a teenager then you're more vulnerable. You want to be part of the group. So I remember very consciously to have made this decision. No, I just don't want to speak it now. I don't want to use it, and I don't like it, and whatever. Yeah. But what helped then was really to spend. I went alone, took the train from Italy to Germany, and I spent 4 weeks with my extended family without my parents. So with my cousins who were more or less my same age. So I got this feeling of how it would have been if I would have lived in a German-speaking country where everyone accepts it, where it's just a nice way. And I learned also the slang and everything of that year, because that changes very quickly. But I remember on the train back, I said, okay, now I understand. It was like a moment of, where everything turned around, and I said, well, I'm both.
How old were you at the time?
I was 14.
Okay, wow, okay. But you already spoke to very high level.
No, I went to a German-speaking section of an international school. So I spoke German at school because it was the school language, or one of the school languages.
You're not sticking out.
No, I'm not sticking out. But when I was with my friends, my Italian friends, I was the one sticking out, and I didn't like that at all. But there are many other things that come into place, and I think it's understandable. But later on, I didn't reject my language later. It was more that the situation was that I didn't need it, so I didn't use it as much. And then you realize you cannot make a full sentence in the language anymore.
So after working with you for now 3 years, I guess, what is your first language? Is it Italian?
No, that's German and Italian. Both.
So they're both.
Both.
Okay, exactly the same. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the other ones are You have Swiss
French.
German. You have
It's more French.
Dutch.
French.
French. So
I'm
French would
more.
be the next on the list.
Yes.
Okay.
And then would be English.
Hmm.
And
So
then
French higher than English.
yes, I've started when I was 6 years old, and then I studied it at university, and I wrote a lot in French,
Hmm.
and read a lot in French. So that is the reason why.
So your little interview thing that you just did, or is that an
Yes,
article?
yeah, 11
Very,
year, yes,
very
yeah,
nice.
yes.
Well, we both have a few languages, and we've lived in different places around the world, and we sort of take that for granted. But yeah, we were talking about it earlier, where in certain areas in developed countries, for example, the U.S., where people want to learn a second language, or for heritage reasons, they want to give their children another language, but it's just not quite as, how would I say, accessible
Mhm.
from a contextual
Yeah,
perspective,
point of view.
the point of view, the people surrounding you for example, U.S., which is mainly a monolingual English country for all intents and purposes, right?
Mhm.
Spanish is very strong in the U.S., but it's just not that same vibe, I think, that we sort of get in Europe, where it's just kind of normal for everybody to, well,
Mhm.
most Western European countries, where it's just normal for everybody to at least know a second language, if not a third, and
Mhm.
that sort of passes on easier to the kids, I
Mhm.
sort of feel.
Yes, and we're also the parents, or let's say the social environment, the society
Mhm.
knows that it is necessary, because the next country, I mean, 2 hours away, they
Yeah.
speak a completely other language,
Well, there you go. There you go.
and so you need to learn it.
Mhm.
Although I see a little bit a shift towards having English as the dominant language a little bit
Okay.
everywhere, which I hope is not going to take over, because
Mhm.
otherwise, what will happen with all the local languages and
Mm.
the variants and dialects and everything? I want to keep them,
Yeah.
because it's
No,
this
definitely.
variety, this diversity that I
Mhm.
thrive in. So please
Mhm.
don't take that away
That's
from me.
right.
I mean, at some point, I'm getting older, but my children, I want the same for my children, and the children of my
Yeah,
children, and
we
the
all
other.
hope that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
and hey, shout out to everybody who's
Yeah.
watching right now. I mean, if
Naveen,
you
we
have
have Naveen, and let me see, Claudia,
Spanish and umbrellas.
Laura, Spanish hands umbrellas.
Thank you,
I
thank
know.
you, thank you. And you're definitely welcome to throw in any comments, your living experiences. For example, we were talking about living in a mostly monolingual country and trying to pass on
Mhm.
your language. Spanish being a major language, and I think the need is there. It's a big, it's a big need in the U.S. Uh, what are your experiences there compared to somewhere like Europe? I think it's a very different, definitely a very different vibe, and different, I'm sure, obstacle to overcome with different
Mhm.
methods.
Mhm.
So earlier we were talking. Let me sort of take the devil's advocate here then, and why would we need to learn another language if today, whether it's ChatGPT or
Oh,
AI technology is advancing at
yeah.
lightning speed?
Mhm.
Uh, it's not a matter of if, but more a matter of when,
Mm.
that translators, interpreters will really become less prominent. I don't know if it's going to be eliminated, but probably less prominent. If yes or no, I mean, let's.
Hmm.
You don't think so? You don't think it will be
Mm, you know,
prominent?
I
At
come
least.
from a perspective of someone who studied literature and
Mhm.
linguistics, and so even when I read books translated into other languages, I always had another kind of feeling and another approach to it, and it
Yeah,
was like um, there was missing something. There was missing a layer
of
of
course.
something. So what I see, yes, it will surely help and make things easier, But if you want to get deeper and you want to elaborate on topics,
that I think.
there will be some.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how far AI
That
would.
is why I think it's a huge incentive for us to continue to raise our kids in different languages so that they are able to dialogue firsthand and interact with people through their languages and really get a true connection, I think. But I'm thinking more from an industrial perspective, how automatic translation and even interpretation. I think we now have these devices where you speak it in this one language and it spits it out in a different language. That kind of stuff will probably become very, very strong. I mean, it's already pretty strong. I think it's not going to, like you say, for these intangible sort of reasons. We'll still need forever people that to speak these languages directly. But from a industrial perspective, some things can be done to a very, very high level. And the costs will be reduced significantly, I think, when it's done by machines. And for those purposes, I do feel that it will get advanced quite a lot, and interpreters and translators will probably need to think about how to master these technologies and use it to their benefit. I think it's a different way of working. Even today's interpreters and translators work differently from 20, 40 years ago, right? Now my friend and translator, he gets a text and 70-80% is already in his data bank. He puts it in and it's done. He just needs to really go over that 20-30% that's really different, and then he has to check those, but that's not doing it from scratch. So even from that perspective, I think technologies have helped a lot.
Yes, but interpreters, for example, those who are Synchronübersetzer, that are simultaneously, I don't think that you can replace them with a machine, because
it can replace a part of them. For things that are much less important. For example, certain just like parties and certain less important conferences. I'm not saying less important, but like lower budget, for example. Lower budget, and they would have, hired a simultaneous in-person interpreter if it weren't for the cost. But if you have this machine to do it, it'll be much lower, but the quality is going to be, I don't know, 70%.
Yes.
You accept the lower quality for the lower price. That kind of things I think will advance.
No, I was more thinking about government level, or if you have to decide about something that has to do with health or security or something there.
Of course, those
honestly, because also it always depends on who is working with this device or with this tool. There's always a human being behind it, and you can make a lot of mistakes as a human being, anyways. So you can make a big mistake with that. So
I wonder, would it be viable if a simultaneous interpreter actually has this AI that's actually doing it in real time, but if there's a big error, that the simultaneous interpreter will intervene and correct the error during the interpretation?
It's a good question.
I mean, that's one way I see making the work more efficient.
When I think it could work if the AI would be tailored to that interpreter and to that context that the AI is learning. So they know how the interpreter would formulate certain sentences in certain contexts, then it could be helpful. So if it's not for a broad group, but for really individually tailored to that situation and that person, because every interpreter uses the language in their very own way, and they might express or translate it in a different way for several reasons. But I think for
definitely
that,
machine learning, it's in and of itself is continuously getting better. I mean, Google Translate has come from very,
Yeah,
very far.
that's good.
It's still far from perfect, but my goodness, it's getting pretty good.
Yes,
with
it's
because it's user input, right?
mhm.
Users go in and say this doesn't sound natural. They change it, and it's that iterative process over and
Mhm.
over and over. And now it's been how many years
Mm.
since Google Translate has been there? So yeah, and
Yeah.
these machine simultaneous interpreters, I think it's possible now, technologically speaking. Now the
So
quality is the thing that's got to go up and up
yes,
and up.
yes, but
But
still, our children should
yes, we come back to that. We
learn a
come
little
back to
bit.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Firsthand, nothing beats
No,
firsthand communication.
no, no.
It just doesn't. So
Yes, because I
and
don't
it's
know
time.
if AI is going to be able to read the air, like they say so nicely,
Yeah.
or if they can read the gestures
Mhm.
really with that speed that a human being does, who walks into the room and can tell, okay,
Well,
they
these
are.
experts
Yeah.
are predicting doomsday if we
Oh,
don't control AI, if we don't put in restrictions for AI research now. So they're talking about pausing all AI research, including Elon Musk has been saying this.
mm,
So I mean, this is not just in translation,
mm,
but AI research in general.
mm, mhm,
If we let this go on, uncontrolled, who
mm.
knows? The machines may take over us. It sounds like a sci-fi movie, but like
It does.
serious people who are working in this,
Yeah,
24/7
I know.
are saying this kind of stuff, and it is a little scary.
Yeah, as
Yeah,
I said, it should be, there should be some groups of conscious human beings knowing what they're doing
yeah, yeah.
and when to pull the plug, you know?
Yes, yes,
Because
and I think that's what they're trying to define. What is that plug that you
mm,
pull, and put those in before a crisis comes up, or before a machine decides it's got its own mindset.
yes, and for that you have to have laws, and these laws
Uh-huh.
need to be decided very
Yeah,
quickly because as you said, it's advancing very fast.
that's right. That's right. But
Mm.
anyways, still,
So
let's take a breather here. Say hello to
yes,
everybody coming in. We are talking about languages, a little on the tangent,
going a
but
bit.
we are talking about languages, and we'll bring it back to raising multilingual kids, especially if you guys have questions. Go right on ahead. If you want to just say hello, that's also valid. Can
Mhm.
wave. And
Yes,
so we're live right now on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and Instagram. Don't forget Instagram.
and
So
Instagram.
we're in various places at the same time. Omnipresent, we say.
No, no, we're far from
So
that. No, it's not going.
we're not
Almost.
we're not that
No.
holy yet.
But maybe if you don't have questions, maybe you want to share something that happened to you with your languages or your children, something that you observed with your children you would like to share that you're particularly proud of. As we said at the beginning, let's try to focus on the positives, right?
Mhm.
Um, some great achievements of your children or your own.
Yeah, great achievements. Speaking of
Mhm.
achievements, my kid he's going to this math competition in
Mm.
Quebec City. So the first round, or like the semifinals, or then the quarterfinals, is like their school. From their school they go to like a big
Another one.
competition within the region, and then the top 25% goes to the provincial final, and then like the top 7 or so from the provincial final will go to like international final, and he made it to the provincial final. That's in like 2 weeks.
Great.
Uh, nerdy math loving kid. I mean, I loved math when I was a kid, and it's stereotypical. Asians were good at math. All right, okay, whatever. It's
No.
true. What can I say? He loves it, and he's 10, and he's been solving stuff for like 15-year-olds. So
Oh, wow.
so he's pretty good, but he's still not the top at those participants from his school. There were like two that were that scored higher than him. And I always tell him, if you have an hour and a half to do a test, like take the time. He's always like, and then he goes. Like, you have that time, sit down, go through it again, and make sure you don't make careless mistakes. And he always does careless mistakes. So he just doesn't. He's not got that discipline to work it through.
Yeah. He has time to get that
little spark.
Yes.
He's a little better than average. But we'll see where he goes. I highly doubt he's gonna be chosen to go to the international, but it's a good experience to go to the provincial final, which is already pretty good. Because how many were there? There's like 400 some people who participated, and 100 and something are going to the provincial final. So
and how does he find it? Does he enjoy doing these competitions?
Oh yeah, because last year he did the provincial final, the quarterfinals and whatnot, and then he went to Japan, so he couldn't come back for the provincial final, even though he was chosen. So
this year is special for him.
Yeah, that's where he gets to go, and we'll see. I mean, if fortunately or unfortunately he gets chosen for the final, the international final, that's going to take place in Poland, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you're coming this side of the world.
At the end of August.
You see?
Yeah. That's like top 7, and that's not just within his group. So what I was saying earlier is, he's within his group, it was 400 some participants, now becomes 144 or something like that, and now he's 114, and then he's going to the provincial final, and of that and all the other categories, the older and the younger and all those together, there's like 6 or 7 that goes to the international final. So there's only one out of his group, at most 2. They said last year there was one, the year before there was one. So for him to be the top in Quebec in his age category, I don't know. I mean, I love my kid. I think he's a pretty smart kid, but I don't know. He's number 1 in Quebec.
And I think whatever they do, I mean, if it's math, if it's geography, if it's anything, when I see the sparkle, you were mentioning the sparkle before. If you see that sparkle, I just melt away. I just say, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I'm 100.
And we try to
1,000% behind you,
right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
I just see that Meili is asking us something or sharing. Let me just share it on Facebook. Or I can't. You have to share it because I'm guest. I cannot. I don't have all the powers this time.
Meili, hello. How are you? Thanks for joining. So for those on Instagram, just want to let you know we have a little comment on our StreamYard. That's our platform to stream to the other platforms. So she says, I just found out that my daughters can speak English very well. So of course she's not in a English-speaking country, I guess. We never teach them English at home, and they only listen to the conversations with the parents in English, okay? And I think they can only understand but can't speak. But I'm wrong. You're wrong. They are surprising you in the best of ways. Indeed.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know how old they are.
I think, if I don't remember wrong, Meili, please correct me. I think they were 7 and 4 or something around that age. Okay. I think they speak French and another language. So English is the language that the parents are speaking. So this is the nice phenomenon, right? So you think that as parents you have the secret language where you can talk about everything with your partner, but the children don't understand, and then all of a sudden they know everything.
It's amazing.
Say, oh my gosh!
Since when do you understand? No, they're listening to you actively.
Absolutely, yes. Okay, I got it right. So that is amazing. And I remember also when I realized that my son, at the beginning, my husband and I, we had French as our lingua franca, so to say. And when he once was, he didn't even learn French, but he understood certain words. And I think for the intonation and the context, you can read the air, like I said before.
Yeah.
And so I wondered, where did you pick it up? And how can you understand? He couldn't explain how. He was 5.5 at that time. But it was really amazing to see. He figures out, like, trying to understand the situation and some words here and there, and then they get it. But what Miley is saying, that they actually speak English very well. So they stepped, even they took the second, third, and fourth step, and that's amazing. French and Vietnamese, exactly as I remember it. Yeah, you have French and Vietnamese and English among you and your partner, and then wow, yeah, that's amazing. Thank you, Miley.
So the kids are they learning English or are they learning French?
No, they're learning French, and
they live in France, I suppose.
No, they are living in an African country, and if I'm not mistaken, they are going to return back to Vietnam soon.
Vietnam, okay.
But that's amazing that they have English now as well under their belt. That's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, and they learn French at school.
Yeah, learning French at school. Yeah, that was French at school.
So yes, all these different, I guess, context and input that you can use within your living context. You just have to be smart about it and use what you have. If it's school, do one language at school. At home, the parents could be different languages, could be the same language, and then the community, of course, is another language. So
and then you see that all of a sudden your children speak a language that you didn't even introduce, or that you say, well, where does this come from? And then it's where they start their very own multilingual journey, and I find this amazing to see and to witness and to experience with our children. Absolutely. Hi, Antonio Gutierrez. And we have someone who says who has the thing on Instagram, my crazy mommy. Hello. If you just joined us, yes, you can, if you wish, you can share with us some nice moments or experiences with your children, how they are using the languages, or how you are using the language.
Or the origin of your handle name, My Crazy Mummy.
You said that. Yes.
Why? Who's crazy in this?
Why crazy? Define crazy. Okay.
Crazy could be a good thing.
Yes, it can.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you, Miley, for sharing.
Yes. Thank you so much for your interactions. So we're here once every full moon or every week, except the third week of the month, which is last week, 2 weeks ago. When was the last? Yeah, it was the last week. Last week was the third week, and we had a special guest. So every third week of the month, we would have a special guest. To give us cutting edge knowledge, information about this niche that we're dealing with, which is raising multilingual kids. So we do invite everybody to join us. The standard time is 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in North America, or 5 p.m. 6 p.m. London, 7 p.m. Central European Time, right? So these are the times that we are there. Generally, sometimes due to guests' their location or other different reasons. Sometimes we need to move the day, or we need to go earlier or later. But in general, the rule of thumb, third Tuesday of the month, and every other Tuesday while we're here, we're still here with you guys. If you have things to share with us, questions. Or share with us your context, your wins. We're always happy to hear the wins and difficulties, of course. We're all here together. We're all doing this in real time. My kids are 10, 9, 6, and the last one just turned 3. I got 4 kids. Lots of things I'm learning from the people I'm interacting with, and from my colleague right here, my dear colleague Ute. Your kids are a little older, but a
little older, yes.
But still, the struggle is different. But there's different obstacles and struggles and challenges. right?
Yes, the challenges are always there, but I mean, every phase has them. Yes, my children are 20 and the half actually, and almost 17 and almost 17. So my twin daughters are almost 17. So we've been
7
through
years.
all kind of phases, and it's amazing, yes, to see all the journeys. But every journey is different, and every journey
Of
is,
course,
is worth to be shared or worth to be embraced. So I'm
of course.
always like
And
that.
I'm always curious. You said your son is learning Mandarin,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
No, it's learning Japanese. Somebody's
Now
learning.
he's learning Japanese. No, it's the same son. It's my son.
Okay. Oh, he's learning both.
Yes.
He's learning both. There you go. And was what's the trigger for the two? Is it one, and then he sort of said, I might as well learn the other one? Like, usually it's like animes, mangas. Introduce them to Japanese, and then somewhere along the way they'll jump. Said, I'm learning kanjis or the Chinese characters. I might as well learn Mandarin.
Yes. No.
What's the story
No.
behind that?
The trigger to learn Mandarin were two friends who have
Okay.
one had one parent who's Chinese, and the other one, both parents are Chinese,
Mhm.
and he was just fascinated by this, and he wanted to learn
That's such a
how
great
to speak
story.
it. And I remember once he came home and I was saying, oh, but this one person, he just arrived from China, and he was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 15 already. So I was wondering, how is he settling in? How does he, go through the day if he only had English as an additional language, but not the whole education was in Chinese before that. And he was saying, yes, for example, in maths, he's counting and doing all the equation, everything in Chinese. And it was, and he was, I swear, he was so fascinated because he was saying it out loud. I mean, quietly, but out loud.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And he was like, what are you doing? And what does this mean? And how do you count? What are the numbers? And this
apparently
is
everybody does
actually,
that.
yes. And
Apparently
actually, he
everybody
was,
does that. For numbers, for some reason, you have to go to your first language. Do
no,
you do that?
to the language that you have learned maths, because my
Yeah.
children went to an English school, and although we also count in German, but they do all the maths and the counting, etc., and they still swap around the numbers in German.
Mhm.
They think maths it's the box of English. So that is how it is. So depending on what context you have learned maths first, it's the one that is going to, and it was fine, but I think that was a trigger for him. So his friend, and then the other friend as well. And for Japanese, there was another friend of his who is actually, he has Spanish and French parents, but the father of this friend was learning Japanese because they wanted to, I think they wanted to spend holidays in Japan, and they like learning languages. And so this friend was also learning a little bit of Japanese,
Okay.
and Francesco was very impressed. Then he was reading mangas, and he was reading more mangas, and then he was enjoying mangas, and he said, "Oh, that's something I want to know more. Not only the language, but really the culture and how you think, how you express yourself, how you say things or don't say things." This was something that he's very, very, very interested in.
Oh, so Mandarin was from a Chinese student. Japanese was not necessarily from a Japanese person, but
No,
it was to somebody who was very
yeah,
interested in Japanese
but
and sort of rubbed off on him.
yes, but actually, he had also a very dear friend in junior school, who was, or primary school, who was from Japan and who had to leave. And I remember that he was very, very sad that he had to leave. And I
We,
remember he spent some time with him, during play dates. And of course, he would hear his friends speaking Japanese with his mom. And yes, I think if you hear it, if it sounds familiar, it sounds like, yeah, it's like my friend. It always, like I said before, you associate the language with an experience, with a person or an experience, and then that makes you like or re-like it, or foster it and learn it in the end.
mhm.
You like that.
We just had the exact same thing for my daughter Nika. she's, she just left 2 days ago, but like up to recently, we had a friend of hers from school, and the parents were telling us now, Penelope, the little girl, really, really likes Nika so much that she started learning Japanese on Duolingo.
Yes,
It's just so fun. That's very flattering, and
it
it's
is.
great.
And I like that children, or let's say, when you don't have this fear of making mistakes, or you don't think when you start learning a language that you need to achieve a certain level of proficiency and you have to say things right, you have to find an accent that is understandable. You just jump into it, and then you try to do your best, and you see where you have to work on. Like when my son was learning Chinese, I still hear him in his room trying to do the intonations and trying to say them out and to articulate the sounds in a way that it makes sense. And then and this is something that is, I think, the nice approach to languages is a playful way, the curiosity that you have. And I want my children to keep this curiosity. No one should stop them being curious about anything.
Indeed, indeed, it's very important, I think, to fuel their curiosity, whatever it is. Language is great, but I sort of think that most kids are not interested in languages. I don't know what your experience is. Not that they hate languages, just that
No,
it's
it's
not
not.
here. It's not like playing games, or not like art or sports. Something that a kid would be interested in, a specific sport or a specific drawing. Like my daughter
Yes.
loves drawing,
Yeah.
but she doesn't like love or dislike languages. She's not super proud of being able to speak 5 languages, or nor is she like
No.
ashamed of. It's just something. It's just like a fact of life.
Yes. But I think, I mean, I never realized that I was, you know several languages, that is normal, and or other people also learn other languages. It's not something that is extraordinary. But I think in the moment when you realize that you have access to something, let's say you can read, I don't know, a post in that language about a topic that you're interested in, and you say, oh, well, I can do this, and it's actually something that helps me access that knowledge or access that person, get in contact with a person because you speak the language or you understand the person. This is where then I think one becomes even more conscious about what the languages do and what they help you with. And it's not the language per se, it's not the Italian or the German or Swiss German that you like and you cherish. Maybe at some point, yes, but I think that comes later when our children realize what these languages connect them with and what doors they open for them. This is when they see, actually, it is helpful, or this is easier for me compared to maybe my friend who doesn't speak it or doesn't understand it, cannot read it. I think at that point, it's that little step.
That's right. That's right. And people are continuing to jump in. So I do invite everybody to say hello on Instagram, on Facebook,
Yes,
on
let us
YouTube,
know.
and
Yeah,
Twitter.
maybe let us know where you are connecting from.
Yes,
Just
it is.
to know from
It
where.
is.
If you're in the
We
evening,
were,
morning.
yeah. So we were talking earlier. Like, we're doing this every week at 1 p.m. my time, and evening in
7
Europe.
mine.
Very, very late in Asia, which is unfortunate. But this is like the most convenient spot for us. But depending on the need, we do consider that perhaps we could do the occasional live stream at a different time spot, or if the need is high, and it fits our schedule, then possibly we could find other spots
Yes.
to supplement, or who knows? Who knows? It all depends on the need, because we're doing this for you guys, right? We're basically trying to answer all these questions that we get from our audience, whether on any of our platforms or in person. So
Yes, and I would also like to know, as this is in the context of Raising Multilinguals Live, maybe someone has watched our last interview with Annick de Hauer, and where we were talking about why we shouldn't compare monolinguals with multilinguals or bilinguals, however you want to call them. And maybe someone has a thought about that or some feedback about it. I would like to know also about what we have done. So
yes.
the numerous interviews that we have done, maybe there is one that sticks out there. You say, oh, this was interesting, or I was surprised to hear that. I'm always surprised about something, any interview we had.
Every time we learn new things.
Absolutely.
And we grow at the same time alongside our community. So definitely we are open to any kind of feedback regarding the sessions, regarding the speakers. If you have recommendations for speakers, also we're open to going out and finding them. Although our schedule is sort of lined up all the way to the second half of this year, well into the second half. But still,
But still. I mean, there is so much that one can say. We just discussed before that we can have another perspective as well. We are not going to tell you which one it is later on. If you want to know, come back. It's a secret. No, but I mean, as I said at one of our previous live chats, we never run out of ideas.
No,
I think it's maybe this little curiosity that we still have. It's a bit a child in us that's helping us.
It's not the ideas that are lacking. That's for sure.
No.
Yeah. And I don't like to say we're lacking in time, because just like everybody else, we have 24 hours per day. So we're not really. It's not technically correct to say we're lacking in time, but definitely we have other occupations, and Raising Multilinguals Live is, for the moment, still our side gig for each of us. We try to pour in however much we can to provide and deliver on the goods. But it's that's the only caveat, I guess, we could put in without making it sound like excuses.
No, not excuses. No. Yes. Right. I see.
But it's the need, right? It's the need. As the need grows, we'll see what other kind of services we can provide. Eventually, we're hoping, eventually we could take this platform and make different offerings, and try to make certain offerings that are payable, so we could monetize certain things, while keeping, of course, much of what we deliver for free right now, with the interviews and the guests and whatnot. So we are open to proposals, ideas. You say, hey, if you had this thing, that would be something that could, scratch an itch that I have, so to speak.
Yes.
We would definitely be open to lots of those. All right. So we are coming up to the top of the hour. I can read it in your eyes, Ute.
Oh my gosh. It just was
over there. And I'm gonna guess that you haven't had dinner yet.
No, I haven't had dinner, but I had.
Like the time is 1 p.m. here. It's always, for me, it's like right after lunch, but it's just before dinner for Ute. So always.
No, but I had merenda. Do you know this word, Italian word, merenda?
Merenda? What?
No, it's a mid-afternoon snack.
Yeah.
That we had.
And knowing the Italians, it's probably like a wow, nice.
No, not too much. No, it was more a Swiss one, so there was a lot of chocolate involved. So.
Ooh. And over there in Belgium, typical dinner time is what, 7, 8-ish? It's not like it's
here in the Netherlands. Here in the Netherlands, it's around 6 o'clock. But
6 o'clock. Okay, it's normal.
We are
like us.
Yeah, but we are flexible. Yeah, I just said it to our friends who come from Switzerland. We have guests at the moment from Switzerland. I said, when we arrived here to the Netherlands, And people were saying, what do you find very different from where you lived before? I said, not so much, because there are things that are similar to Italy, there are other things similar to Switzerland. And they said, what would possibly be similar to Switzerland? We don't have mountains. And I said, well, it's the only thing that you don't have. But for example, dinner time. Dinner time is the same. They also have dinner at around 6 o'clock, between 6 and 7.
Like in Spain,
actually,
it's like
it depends.
10 or
It would be
11
very
at night.
late. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a culture shock.
Yeah, but then you have a completely different routine during the day. Here we cannot just stop working at lunch. It's very short time of lunch.
Yeah.
Like in Switzerland. So
yeah, they really divide their workday into two, or their school day into two.
If that works.
They've got really early morning. They do most of it there, and then afternoon is like completely off, and then they go back to work at 5 or something.
Yeah, I mean, if that works, that's fine. It's important to know if you have to work with someone from another country where they have completely different hours, not only because they're in another time zone, but also because they have another rhythm of working, or preferences like that. So,
all right,
other languages. So great.
Listen, let's not go over the hour.
No.
Okay. That's sinful. We promised ourselves we're not going to do more than 1 hour.
No. Okay.
So it is coming up to the top of the hour. I will see you next week, and everybody else. Thanks for joining. Thanks for your questions and comments and interactions. And we'll be seeing everybody around next week. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Bye-bye.